What's up? What's up? What's up, y'all? Joey Womack, founder, CEO of Goodie Nation, coming to you with another amazing episode of Why Relationships Matter in the Innovation Economy. And we have some dope founders for you today. We're going to talk about some interesting things. We're going to talk about their work. We're going to talk about a little bit of the struggles they may see in the innovation space. And at the end of the day, why they are so dope, right? It's a special episode of Why Relationships Matter, why LGBT founders are super dope, super excited to get into this conversation. So before I really quite honestly talk a little bit too much, I'm going to pass it over to my co-host today, the awesome Casey Willis, one of our Tech Story fellows, and we're going to get some introduction before we get into the conversation. So Casey, kick it over to you.
Thank you, Joey. Well, hey, everybody. My name is Casey, and I am a tech storytelling fellow with Goodie Nation this year. I'm also the founder of Could Be Pretty Cool, a podcast production company that makes shows about arts and culture. And this conversation is so timely. It's so important. And I really just want to give a shout out to Joey, to be honest. He was really the catalyst for saying, like, hey, Goodie Nation hasn't explicitly had this conversation before. We haven't highlighted or featured LGBTQ plus founders before. So like, let's do it now. And I think that type of urgency and awareness is what everyone should be sort of charging our community with right now. So shout out to you, Joey. But we are here to chat with some incredible founders today, and we're going to introduce them to you. So starting with Chris, why don't you tell the people who you are, where you're from, and about your business?
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be on this panel. My name is Chris, or Crystal, whatever you prefer. I'm actually from Canada, so I just moved to LA last July, so I've been exploring LA. And our business, we help adults with ADHD by linking them up with an expert ADHD coach, and they meet weekly over video, and there's some in-app support as well as they slowly work towards their goals, and whether that means skills or building routines or having them get the right support or accommodations at work. Yeah, thank you for having me, and I guess I'll kick it to the next person.
Nice. What about you, Oscar? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a delight to be here with everyone. My name is Oscar Pedroso. I'm the founder and CEO of Thimble.io. From New York City originally, live in Buffalo, but currently in Dubai. But we provide a K-12 curriculum that teaches students computer science, robotics, and other technical fields that are becoming more and more relevant in today's workforce. So thanks again for having me.
Oh, of course. Fantastic. Rihanna, who are you?
Hey everyone, it's good to be here. I am raised in Chicago. I'm back here seeing family, but based in Austin, Texas. I founded Journey Foods. We're a software platform, B2B software platform for food and beverage companies. We also offer a data service that helps them transform the $3 trillion packaged product market. We specifically focus on nutrition, sustainability, and cost data so that we can improve supply chains around the world.
Nice. Yes. The outside looks amazing. We should all probably go do that at some point later today.
Summertime side.
Yes. Anna, why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
For sure. Great to be here. I'm Anna Deshawn. Pronouns, anything respectful is great. I have two companies, E3 Radio. We're an online radio station playing queer music and reporting on queer news in high rotation. And then we have The Cube, which is a podcast production company creating content at the intersections of race and sexuality. And we're also your hub to discover the very best BIPOC and QTPOC podcasts in the space. So if you're tuned in, you got a good pod, you should be in The Cube.
Nice. And last but certainly not least, Kevin.
Hey everyone, I'm Kevin Hu. I'm the CEO and founder here at Firstly, and we are a B2B SaaS platform that makes it easier for program administrators at colleges and nonprofits to make, manage, and measure impactful programs.
Very cool. Such a diverse array of folks and industry and businesses. This is gonna be fun. So to dive in, I know this is our sort of like pride edition of Why Relationships Matter, but we always like to start off with you all telling us a little bit more about what inspired you to actually start your founder journeys. And while you're sort of just sharing a little bit about how you have gotten to this point now, if you want to shout out any of those relationships, whether it's your parents, your family, an educator, a mentor, just sort of reminding our audiences, and even, it might be a nice little reminiscing for yourself about the relationships who have helped you to get to where you are today. So anyone who likes to jump in?
I'm happy to get started. I mean, I started my companies because I saw that there was a need. There wasn't anybody telling queer stories in Chicago. And I felt like I could do it. I could do it well. And that's how I started in 2009 with the radio station. And then just a few years ago, I felt the same need was happening in the podcasting space. We couldn't find Black podcasts. I couldn't find queer podcasts by folks of color in the space. It was just awful. I said, well, why can't we just solve the problem? And so that's why we created the Cube. I have so many mentors in the space. Relationships are everything. I think about Tracy Bain, who I just talked to today. She's like a legend here in Chicago, running the only LGBTQ newspaper for like 40 years at this point, and it's still free, which is wild. And she just provides advice when needed, like sage advice, like don't do that. And that's what she told me this morning, and I appreciate that. So for me, relationships are at the cornerstone of actual success, because it's like your net worth. Your relationships are your net worth, and they mean everything in growing a business.
Very nice. Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
I think I saw Oscar as well, but I can go first. So I was diagnosed with ADHD last year, and when I was diagnosed, unfortunately, when I went to the doctor, they gave me medication, and that was kind of the end of the story. So for me, I started on this massive hunt for, are there any behavioral solutions out there that are quality, that are culturally affirming? And I didn't find anything that was in my price point. And so I thought there must be so many more people who are like me. And so that was the impetus as to how Shimmer was started. And along that journey, I found out that I guess in the vein of the Pride Month, that queer people are proven to be up to twice as likely to have ADHD as heterosexual people. And also, women are often not diagnosed until they're an adult because of the way that the DSM-5 criteria was written. Most women don't actually see their symptoms as being ADHD. They see it as anxiety or as depression, and they're kind of misdiagnosed their whole life. So I'm lucky to be able to, the version of Shimmer that it now is with adult ADHD and kind of the different populations that we skew to be able to really hone in and serve the different populations that I really care about and that I'm a part of. So along the journey, there's been so many kind of mentors and relationships within the queer community and outside as well that have pulled us along the way. I really don't think we could have done what we've done without them. And kind of one I'll shout out is Gangels, which is a fund that invests in LGBT founders. They're one of our first investors, and the people around this panel know when you're kind of getting started, the first few investors make such a big impact on your life because someone is telling you that, yeah, you can do it. You're going to be able to do it, and I believe in you.
What a lovely story. And I didn't know that statistic about queer people having ADHD at higher rates. That's like also dropping knowledge for folks. Thank you, Chris. Oscar, did you want to share next?
Sure, happy to. Thanks, Casey. So, I mean, my inspiration for starting Thimble.io goes back to my time as a high school student. So, I grew up breaking things apart. I was always naturally curious about how things were made. And when I got to high school, I wanted to become part of the robotics team, but I was not allowed to be on it because I wasn't part of the gifted and talented program. I had the math and science scores, but I didn't have the English and social studies scores. And so I tried advocating for myself, but it ultimately, my parents ended up going up to the administration and then escalating the issue all the way up to the superintendent. And finally, I was given an an opportunity to be part of the team. And so I came in as the underdog, but all my friends were part of this team as well. So, but by my junior year, we had won several competitions, and then I became a program officer my senior year. And I discovered my ability to do well in math, ended up getting a degree in math, and then I became a math teacher for a little bit, worked in inner city schools. So I really enjoy working with kids. So I was now on the other side, trying to get kids interested in tech. But what I loved most is working with kids that looked like me or very similar to me. And motivating them. But unfortunately, as you can imagine, inner city schools don't always have the best programs in place. So I had the entrepreneurial itch and decided that I was going to try to make a dent in the space and started Thimble.io. But relationships, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for the relationships I've made along the way. There have been many, and there are always new ones popping up. You never know who you're going to meet, but I would say one impactful one I would say was Halcyon, which is a social impact incubator. I mean, it changed my life. It taught me that before you can serve other people, you sort of have to take care of yourself. And as all of you in here can imagine, right, it's tough building a company from the ground up. So I've learned that I sometimes have to not put myself in the back seat and make sure that I'm doing well from a physical, mental standpoint, right? Like RuPaul says, if you don't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else, right? So also somebody I look up to, by the way. And but yeah, no. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm anxious to hear about everybody else's.
Nice. And yes, celebrities can also be some sort of relationship if they help to motivate you. Because yes, that quote, what is it? If you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you gonna love somebody else? Is so applicable to so many things. Thank you for dropping that here. Rihanna, how about you?
Yeah, and I hope you can't hear too much of the yard noise going on. I'm really inspired by one with the space that I'm sitting in. I've been helping my grandmother garden and farm here for 30 years now, this year, in this space. So it's good to come back and heal here and be authentic and work directly outside in the space. But one thing that comes to mind is like how I could dream a little bit more in the communities and the businesses that I've started over the past a little over a decade. And that those communities really started early in Chicago and DC for me, particularly in the Women Tech Founders community, as we found that in Chicago, close to 30% of the new businesses that are started, and even tech companies are started by women. And before 2013, there really wasn't a venture community in Chicago. There really wasn't a strong tech community in Chicago. And folks like Nicole Geary and Terry from Women Tech Founders really put some of the opportunities and resources on their backs so that we could see founders that could build B2B SaaS companies, that could build consumer companies, that could build well-funded companies, or even bootstrap companies that had built quite a community and could grow and create change within different sectors and industries, as well as cities around the country and beyond that. And I really want to thank all the people that helped me show up authentically. I think when we talk about relationships and talk about impact and talk about entrepreneurship, it's a very tough road, and the most important thing, and I think that's one of the underlying factors of why we're having this conversation, is that we get to build community, but like more importantly, show up authentically through the hard road that is entrepreneurship. And I'm really excited to look back and reflect on those opportunities during this chat today.
Nice. You said you've been helping on the farm for 30 years. Is that what you said? That's amazing.
Yeah, I was a little girl, like growing cucumbers so she could teach me how to pickle. So she migrated from Alabama in the 60s and brought that farming identity to just outside Chicago. And that's been tremendous in how I think about what I want to attack in the food industry, because beyond that, and I'm sure many of us still have a lot of family members that are affected by chronic disease that is closely related to food. Even within ourselves, like we face sort of food issues as we grow older, and so it's a close and personal issue for many of us. And I'm happy I get to sit here and be inspired from such a young age through the work that I do now.
Oh wow, yes. Growth is in your DNA. Nice. Kevin, why don't you tell us a little more about your journey and some of the relationships that helped you to get to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my journey at Firstly, this was inspired by the fact that, like, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm first gen and low income, and 90% of students like me would drop out of college. What did help me get over the hump was when I was struggling financially as a sophomore, I had a mentor who convinced me to stay because I was literally thinking about, hey, like, how do I pay rent? Should I just drop out and work a minimum wage job? I'm really glad I didn't because, again, like, I wouldn't be here and I would be kind of stuck. And having that mentor in that pivotal time was really important for me and my career. And it was really just a life-changing mentorship experience. So as we're talking about impactful programs and mentors, I have three people that come to mind. Number one is my mother, who has taught me the definition of resourcefulness. Number two is my mentor, Andrew, who really taught me not to give up, even when things are hard, even when you're financially struggling, such as in college. And number three, actually, Chris was one of the people who was really impactful for me during my MBA program at UC Berkeley Haas. As it pertains to my queer identity, I actually wasn't out when I had started school and really struggled with feeling safe enough in the MBA community to come out. And Chris was actually one of the first people that I had told. So, shout out to you, Chris, and just for your support during this founder journey. But these are the people who have really impacted me on my journey so far.
Like, we love
Oh my
that.
God, you're gonna make me cry. Thank you. You're great.
Thank you.
No, like this is like literally what it's about. This is why relationships matter. This is why breaking down the relationship gap is so important. Like someone sitting next to you literally or virtually could inadvertently be like a person who helps to motivate you, and that's just so amazing and beautiful to see. And one of the most interesting things that I heard in all of your stories is that on the road to building your companies, you discovered a problem or a challenge and figured out a way to use your company to try and solve that problem. So that's a challenge in and of itself for any founder. But in this particular landscape where we are socially, politically, I mean, I speak for myself when I say this year it's feeling a little weird, a little weirder than it has in the past for queer people in general. The United States, some crazy laws happening and some crazy things happening. I'm curious for you all as queer founders, are there any particular challenges that you have faced that are specific to your identity or specific to what's sort of going on in the world? And if so, how are you dealing with that? How have you overcome those challenges? And this is open to whoever wants to jump in.
I'm happy to go first. So being gay in education, right? Like it's not one of the first things that I would say when I meet somebody for the first time, right? So I'm usually very private about it, but I don't want it to be something so private that I can't even talk about myself or the people that are dearest to me. So a few years ago, right, I probably wasn't comfortable enough to say I was gay in a professional setting or a networking type setting. But being part of some communities like Angels, Startup Growth Labs, these are all LGBT friendly type programs. Just talking and hearing stories from other LGBT founders and how they've handled being open about their sexuality in a networking or professional setting has been very helpful for me to overcome that fear. And so now when I talk, I always, when I'm talking to people and hearing about their families and everything, historically I used to feel a little left out because I felt like I couldn't share that information about myself. And I felt like I was robbing myself of getting myself known by other people. And so little by little, I've just been more and more comfortable talking about my fiance, soon to be my husband, my stepkids, and I embrace it. And I've learned that if people don't really accept that, then they're not meant to be part of my life, so to speak. And I've helped other LGBT founders feel comfortable about themselves as well and being open about who they are. But for me, that's not something I'm willing to negotiate on anymore. And now I'm me as much as I can be all the time. And it does help me be a better person and founder.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, congratulations on engagement and stuff. You like a whole grown up. You had stepkids and stuff. That's a lot. Anyone else want to jump in on this one?
Yeah, Oscar, what you said resonates with me a lot. That's very much how I felt like just up until 2.5 years ago when I had started my MBA program and when I really came out. And I think what prevented me from showing up as queer in the workplace for so long was some of these stereotypes that are held against queer people, all these assumptions about who you are just based on something about yourself that you can't even change. And so, just for myself and my coming out journey in a professional setting, I was always hesitant because even in my MBA program, there were a lot of, I guess, I did my MBA program in one of the most inclusive places in the States, I would say, yet we still had a large, percentage of the class that was very judgy. And, there would be times when I would enter a room, it's an MBA party. I'd enter a room with 2 other queer people. I'd come out and people would assume that we were, doing something inappropriate when I was just literally going in there because it felt overwhelmed with, the people around me. And it just, for me, it feels kind of unfair to have some of these things assigned to me. And because I was literally, just taking a breather. So it just makes me feel that, even in a professional setting, I'm not allowed to take a breather as a queer person and not have people judge me. So these are the things that I'm grappling with, but I've come to terms with, hey, this is part of the queer experience, especially being in the workplace. And, I just have to really show up as myself and kind of ignore some of these people who are making assumptions, because these are the people that I'm probably not going to change their minds about me anyway if they're going to assume things about me to begin with. So, yeah.
Yeah, really appreciate you sharing that truth. I certainly hope in the future that that will not be a part of the queer experience, that expecting to be, treated differently or for people to like assume things about someone because they're queer, like that people should expect that in the workplace. So hopefully conversations like this and spaces like this will gradually, shift that vibe because everyone should be able to just show up and do their best work. So yes, thank you so much for that. Chris and Ariana, we got a unmuted mic. Let me mute mine.
I can go. I had 2 kind of thoughts that came to mind, especially as Kevin and Oscar were speaking to. And the first one I think is there is such a big difference between being out and not being out, and that experience, both with being queer and in my case, and Kevin as well, also with our neurodiversity with ADHD. But those are 2 such different experiences, and having to like make that decision, especially for me as like someone who is like not ADHD presenting and like not queer presenting, to be able every single day to have to like make that decision. And every new person I meet, like, do I come out with this person? Do I tell them I have ADHD? How are they going to treat us? And also, like, are they even aware of all these things, or I'm going to have to spend a long ass time just like telling them all these things. So that's definitely one dynamic I just wanted to call out as definitely being a massive challenge in both of those identities. And the second one that I always struggle to answer this question is because it's really hard for me to untangle like me being queer and Asian and female and also neurodiverse. And when people say like, oh, what challenge do you have from being a female or from being a queer person? I'm like, I don't know, like what this challenge is coming from. I just have it. And so the biggest one I can think of is actually around fundraising. And I think that when most BCs look a certain way or have a certain identity and have a certain life experience, and we all know kind of what that general stereotype is, they will skew to funding things that they understand. And I think all of us here are building things that we understand and that we've seen a hole for. And so that massive gap between what people are funding or what they understand and what actually we are building because we've seen a problem and we want to solve it, that is a challenge that I always feel as soon as we start touching fundraising. But I don't know if it's because of queer, Asian, or female, or having ADHD. It's really just a mix of that. And I'm sure that everyone in here has a similar story with fundraising and anything really that you're interfacing with folks who don't understand what we're building.
Can I piggyback off that? Because for me, it is absolutely the intersectionality of my identities that is probably the biggest challenge, because my businesses are completely based on identity. And so when I talk about the Q, being a place of discoverability for BIPOC and QTPOC folks, the moment I say queer, trans, people of color, they ignore that I am also a house for people of color. Right? It's like, oh, you're the queer one. Yeah, I am the queer one. I've been a professional queer for a very long time. But at the same time, my Blackness is very important to me. And being a woman is very important to me. And being a masculine centered woman is very important to me. Being from the South Side of Chicago is very important to me. And all of these things I bring to my business, but people, they choose to see you the way that they want to see you. And when I was coming into my own, I'd be in spaces where they wanted me to be Black, and then I'd be in spaces where they wanted me to be queer, and to make everybody comfortable. And at some point, you just have to choose to be yourself and show up as your full self, right? For your own mental well-being. And so for me, my biggest challenge is people being able to see all of what I'm looking to do, and not just the part that they resonate with the most or want to connect with in that moment.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. For me, it's been a challenge to navigate being a woman, being queer, being young in ways, and being Black in very white male dominated. Of course, most industries are white male dominated, but to be in B2B SaaS and in agriculture and food, and to have customers in multiple countries, and think about, like, when do I switch on and switch off these identities, and just finally got to a point where I said, like, I have to show up in as many ways that I associate with and, like, feel and believe in myself as possible, because my most authentic self is my most productive self, is my most healed self, is my also my most gifting self, right? To those around me, to those that need to be authentic and work through their own challenges, and also those that look up to me in these spaces. And so the intersectionality has been and was my biggest challenge when it comes to fundraising, when it comes to business partnerships, when it comes to feeling my whole self as an entrepreneur. And I think that's something that, like, oftentimes, especially in Black entrepreneurship circles, gets missed.
I love that. My most authentic self is my most productive self. That's like that's a gem right there. And speaking of that sentiment, we're in Pride Month, as we know. Lots of companies, corporations are, look, we're inclusive and we love diversity and we have a rainbow logo now. Like, we're doing it. And then July comes and it's kind of like, oh, okay. So out of curiosity, I mean, with diversity and inclusion sort of turning into like buzzy trend words now, for you as founders, what do you think the entrepreneurship business landscape as a whole should do to actually promote true diversity and inclusion, to promote what you just said, people being able to show up as their most authentic selves and in turn being their most productive selves?
I think we have to call in companies that are invested in performative allyship, right? And I reported about this on our Queer News podcast. I mean, y'all should check it out. I think it's good. But talking about these brands, Adidas, the North Face, Target, Bud Light, those are the biggest ones that have been called, to the floor. But there's so many companies that are invested in performance and not invested in being a true comrade, right? We've gotten over 500 bills introduced across legislatures across the country that are anti-trans, anti-LGBTQ. This is not a time to be on the fence. This is not a time to sort of put your hands up, be like, I don't know what to do. This is a time that we must double down and call people in on what it means to see us 365 days of the year. And there are so many organizations doing the work. Time, talent, treasure, we all got something that we could be giving to organizations, to companies like ours, to show that they are truly invested in seeing us be successful and seeing our whole humanity as well.
I love that, Anna. And one thing I was thinking about too while you were talking is, for those companies that want to make the effort to have an appreciation for all people, is to set the example themselves. One of the first things I do now is, if I'm doing research on a company, I look at the team page and About Us page. I want to understand the values. I want to look at all the different shades of color on the team, because that says a lot. And that doesn't just go for companies in general. If I'm joining a program, or if I'm doing an incubator and an accelerator, I do that research because I want to know ahead of time if I'm going to be accepted, right? And get a general idea for who I'm going to be surrounded by, right? Because that can very much set the tone for what the experience is going to be like. And that's another thing I won't compromise on either, is so that there's something to be said about what people are doing at these companies, at the leadership level, to show that they truly place a lot of value on diversity.
Yeah.
I want to add in there, like, I really appreciate too, like, the curation of the folks here on the chat today, because I feel like I've been in podcasts or interviews or live panels where it's just like black and white queer, right? And so, like, sharing this experience and sharing and all of us showing up from even different countries and cities right now is really valuable, I think, for the conversation.
Chris, did you have a point of view on this as well?
Yeah, I can share really quickly. I think that, there's so many ways that companies can actually be inclusive and kind of have the right DEI initiatives in place. But I think the best way, obviously I'm a little bit biased because I have an ADHD organization, is really to have this diversity built into, and the advocacy built into the core of your business. It's not just this one thing that you do in June and you're one and done, but really it's in the core of what you do. And for example, for us, yes, we serve ADHD clients, but also most of our coaches have ADHD, and many of our coaches are queer. And so building in just the values and the mentality that diversity is a strength, and we want you to bring what makes you special, whether that's queerness, whether that's ADHD, and we will together, if you tell us what are the things that you struggle with, we will work with you to build things around you, to build the right accommodations, to build the right support, such that you can spend your time thriving instead of worrying about all these things and trying to mask and trying to keep those kind of struggles to yourself, because we all have struggles and we all have things that we're good at. And so DEI isn't just about queer people, but it's about everyone. And I think that as much as companies can build that mentality into kind of what Oscar was mentioning, your values, your ethos, and also your business and your core, whatever is the core thing that you do, the more we can build it into our core, then we can really say that, yes, we're standing for pride, or yes, we're standing for whatever population it is. It's not just about this 1 month of just throwing money or the I forgot the word, but the rainbow washing your logo, or just putting your logo like with a flag, and you're like, okay, suddenly we're all about pride.
Like, yes, all of your perspectives are so amazing. And I think there are things that leadership at a lot of places needs to hear. And so to pick on you again, Joey, as a fellow with your company, I'm learning about your company and the things that you do. And again, seeing you as a leader say, well, we've never done a Pride edition of, our podcast before, but like, let's do it. Let's try it. For me, it's like, wow, you're a leader who isn't trying to sort of be like, I know everything already. You're open to learning. You're open to opening new perspectives, to, bringing in these conversations. And so I'm curious, why was this important for you to do this year? Why did you decide to do this?
It really crystallized for me, and this is like pseudo not answering your question because this thing was already in motion. But a few weeks ago, or really maybe it's around the same time, a few weeks ago, I was at Oberlin College in Ohio for my for graduation. My father's getting an honorary degree, and if anyone knows about Oberlin, really progressive school. Like, I mean, and they wear it on their sleeve. And I got a chance to go to the Black Student Union. Essentially had their own kind of celebration of graduates and stuff like that. And they had 30, 40, 50 maybe students come across the stage. And they all gave remarks. And many of the students, I think, identified it as queer. And one student in particular, I forgot how he introduced himself. Afro Latino, two-spirited, and then something. And he actually, the point of his speech which was near the end, was he was railing on his classmates, right? He was railing on his classmates. Again, Oberlin, a really progressive school. They are allies, seemingly, from my understanding, to everyone. But he made the point, and again, it's a few weeks ago, that although they pride themselves on being really progressive and standing up for people's rights and so on and so forth, at the same time, some of the very same students who were like that, Black students in this case, and I want to put this accurately. He says, as we're approaching Pride Month, like, you say all you're for Pride, but you still don't treat the students that identify as queer as humans and stuff like that. And that really struck me. I'm actually sitting in the front row because my father uses a cane and stuff like that. And that made me question, like, damn, like, are we really at Goodie Nation really for everyone? Like, we say we're closing the relationship gap for people from all backgrounds and yada, 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 but are we really, really doing it? And so at that very same moment that he said that, or at the moment he said that, I'm like, you know what, we gotta double down. We gotta do what we gotta do, right? And we got a long way to go. But that really struck me. Ironically, the dude the next day got on stage and started twerking and stuff. So maybe people didn't like him because he's just a jerk. Who knows, right? But he said that, and it really, really stuck with me. So, we talk about with founders when they come into Goodie Nation, everyone has a choice to make. Do you want to be average? Do you want to be good? Or do you want to be great? And also team members as well, right? So culturally, we're like, do you want to be average, good, or great? The average people kind of slide on by. The good people, accept coaching, but the great ones, proactively ask how they can get better. And sometimes you have to be proactive in asking yourself how you can get better. So when that student said that, and then also looking at the identities of everyone in Goodie Nation, I asked myself the question, how can we get better in this lens? And so that's what we kind of landed on. So, again, I think we have a ways to go, but I think hopefully we're taking a good first step. Does that answer the question?
Hopefully no, that totally answered the question. Yes, I didn't know that backstory either, but no, I think you're definitely on the right track with this conversation. And yeah, great leadership, Joey.
Cool. Okay, so I do have a question for everyone else, right? So I learned a ton from this, from your comments so far. I want to kind of loop back to why you all are so dope, right? I want to kind of end on that. Why you're also dope, and I do want to I do recognize that we could probably do 3 to 4 to 12 episodes on some of the challenges, but I do want to let the people know why you all are so dope. So let's talk a little bit about, some of the exciting new things you all are working on, any exciting news from your startup and stuff. And I kind of want to start from you. So again, any dope stuff you're working on, things you want to share with the people?
I'm sorry, did you say me? I don't
Yeah,
know who you
Anna.
call me. All right, cool. Yeah, let's talk about why the cube is so dope. Not so much about me because that makes me uncomfortable. But I think the cube is really dope because we are also producing podcasts. So our first podcast, Black HIV in the South, How Did We Get Here, was licensed to Urban One Podcast Network. I think it's a beautiful work and a call in that there is still a crisis happening with HIV/AIDS in this country, and specifically with Black folks and Black queer folks. And I would love for y'all to check that out. I also would love to give a shout out to our next podcast that's going to be dropping called Polyam Chats, where we talk about what polyamory is and not just the sex. We're talking about the business, the calendars, the communication, the breakups, the new relationships. Child, it's so much. And I'm really proud about that. And this summer, we're going to go on tour and we're going to take our podcast to the people. And I hope that y'all want to tap into what we're doing and come out to one of our immersive podcast listening experiences where we're going to listen to a whole bunch of podcast trailers with silent headphones and surround sound, and something that we usually do alone, which is listen to podcasts, we're going to do in community. And I'm really excited about taking a grassroots approach to media and entertainment with podcasts, because I feel like podcasts without community is nothing. So I'm really excited about the work.
I love it. I love it. I also want to give a shout out to Denise Smith watching on LinkedIn there. Good stuff. Good stuff. Oscar, what about you? Any exciting news?
Yeah, definitely. Excuse me. So we're currently global at the moment. In the US, we're working in about 47 districts. A lot of those districts are in Texas. Particularly, we're working with schools along the Mexican border. And so these are kids that don't necessarily speak English as their first language, but are naturally very curious and to some extent very talented when it comes to robotics and coding. So we're developing more and more lessons, bilingual lessons. And I'm currently in Dubai and heading to Bangladesh and then India for the next couple of weeks. We launched a pilot in Jaipur, India in December. So we were working with kids who don't have any access to this type of education there. So we're doing this in partnership with a couple of organizations there. And a shout out to Darti Desai, who has helped us open some of these doors. But we're hoping that the programs that we're bringing into these schools will provide the right amount of exposure to generate some interest, hopefully develop an interest in science and technology, hopefully a passion, hopefully it leads to more and more interest down the line, hopefully a career. But a lot of these kids, again, don't really have access to any of this. So our goal is that, when we're teaching this as a program, it's to some extent prescriptive, but we're trying to get it to a point where kids at some point can come up with their own ideas, get creative, invent something, who knows, maybe launch a venture of their own one day, all as a result of doing this. So that's some of the exciting work that we're doing. And we're currently talking to some folks in Latin America, which is a big dream of mine because my family's from Honduras. So we're hoping that we can impact some kids down there at some point.
I love it. We'll love to come to Rihanna next. Rihanna, any dope stuff you're working on? Any exciting news, stuff like that?
There's lots, definitely. I've been pulling back from opportunities like this, like podcasting and traveling for speaking engagements, because there's lots of product updates happening. Over the past few months, we've received patents and large USDA grants. We're part of a $420 million regional farmers grant to digitize farmers across the country and help them get into broader supply chains in restaurant and grocery. So very excited about that. I'll be heading to Summer Davos in China in a couple of weeks to discuss AI, and I'll probably be the only Black female queer person there. So hopefully not. But it's really for me, it's really grounding to have these conversations with everyone on this call. So hopefully I can go in stronger to these rooms and advocate for more of us to show up. We're also launching some major partnerships. I can't go into too many details, but they're well-known organizations that are very influential on more of the culture side that are going to be launching large food package deals. So it's really been a product year for us. We're also closing a round soon. So I'm excited to share those updates and really been heads down on improving the Journey product and improving the opportunities for our customers and for our partners.
I love it. I love it. I'm glad you joined us today.
Yeah.
Chris, what about you? Any exciting things you're working on?
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to pick. I'm gonna share three things. So last month was AAPI Heritage Month, and we were able to sponsor a group of Asians with ADHD to get free coaching. And then prior to that, we also did a similar thing with Canadians with a financial need. So I love it when we can get our product in the hands of folks who need it the most. We're currently looking for a sponsor for a Pride Month version of that, if anyone is out there and listening. So that's the first thing. The second thing is not yet, but as of next week, we will have helped in our coaching model. Since we launched in October, we would have helped 1,000 people with direct one-on-one coaching support that we're super excited about. And it spans from US to Canada, Australia. I think we have some people in Germany and Poland as well. So I'm just excited about like each one single individual that we're able to help with ADHD. And then the last thing is I'm so excited. We're super heads down, similarly to Rihanna, with our web platform. We've been mobile only, and now I'm so excited to launch on web. It's going to happen in July, but reducing phone reliance and phone addiction is a massive thing within the ADHD community. So I'm excited to give people the option of doing web and meeting folks where they're at, especially for folks who work on their laptop already. And also typing is just a little bit easier than on your phone. But taking the stance is a big move for us because most companies, especially consumer companies, they want to take up as much time on your cell phone as possible, and they want to buy your attention in that way. And so we're kind of taking the opposite stance there, which I'm excited for that launch.
That's huge. That's huge. That's huge. I love it. I love it. And Kevin, what about you?
Yeah, a lot of exciting stuff happening with Firstly. So the one that comes to mind first is we just closed a pre-seed round of funding, and really excited. We're funded by an organization that does a lot of education, private and public sector partnerships, which really fits in with Firstly's business model. So with that said, we also are going to be launching our version 2 web platform in the next couple of weeks that makes the program administrator's experience of launching a program a lot easier. So that's, including a self-service experience, and really excited for that to go live because we're finally going to be able to serve a lot of the smaller customer segments, smaller nonprofits and colleges that we didn't have capacity to serve before. And, to keep the growth going, we're looking to close a seed round of funding later in Q4. But the last and probably most exciting piece of news is that we have, our team so far, we've broken into the largest public university system in the US, which is the UC system. We're launching a program with UC Irvine in the next month. And I'm really excited because I am a UC Irvine alum. So if there's any anteaters out there watching, zot. But yeah, a lot of exciting stuff happening with Firstly.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Let's before I kick it to Casey for her final thoughts, and then I'll close. I do want to go back around the horn, and Kevin, I'll start with you, just on any ways people can get in contact with you, right? Either web or social or anything like that. So we'll go reverse order. We'll go Kevin, then Chris. But yeah, Kevin, how can people get in contact with you?
Yeah, so people can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Kevin Hu, spelled H-U. But aside from that, if you are interested in learning more about Firstly, just go ahead and go to our website, firstly.pro, as in program. Or, you can feel free to email me directly. That's kevin@firstly.pro. But yeah, just really looking for folks who believe in our mission of accelerating social and economic mobility to kind of join us on this journey.
Nice. Chris.
Yes, so our website is www.shimmer.care, and you can also find us on Instagram. It is @shimmer.care if you want to see some reels of me.
Nice. Rihanna.
Yeah, so everyone can find me on all the socials at Rihanna Lynn. You can find us at Journey Foods if you're looking to improve food and beverage supply chains around the world. And looking forward to connecting with everyone.
Awesome. We'll go Oscar and then Anna.
Yeah, definitely. You can find us at thimble.io, also on LinkedIn, Oscar Pedroso, and then my email too. I'm always happy to get a message from anyone, oscar@thimble.io. Feel free to reach out, say hi.
There it is, Anna.
Yeah, I'm at Anna Deshawn across all socials. And then you can follow the Cube, TheQube.app. Sign up and discover your new favorite pod.
There it is. Casey, anything you want to leave us with?
I mean, I really just want to say thank you to the five of you, your five individuals who are contributing to both the entrepreneurial landscape, to the making the world a better place landscape. And yes, conversations like this, they may seem like little small drops in the bucket, but hopefully they are a catalyst to help build that world where people can show up authentically and contribute to the best of their ability. So thank y'all so much for your time today. And yes, folks, listen to these leaders, these founders. That's all. Kick it to Joey.
There it is. So listen, I said you all would be in for a treat, and you definitely got a treat, right? We showed you why they are dope. More so, they showed you why they are dope. We heard some amazing things. We heard shout outs to people, and correct me if I'm wrong, like Tracy Bain, Nicole Heary, Halcyon started Growth Lab, Game Jules, and many, many others. They talked about some of the challenges they do face as founders, quite honestly, particularly around the intersexuality of some of their identities, which I thought was very, very interesting. Maybe we can explore that at a different time. But they showed you why they are dope. They're in spaces like education, storytelling, mental health, food, and more. And so my ask for anyone watching or listening to simply support them. They gave you their contact information. You can also go to goodienation.org to find out a little bit more and click on their profile under the Intentionally Good page. But at the end of the day, we ask you at least take about 30 minutes to think about how you can connect them with either capital providers, customers, other people that can tell their story, people to give them advice, potential users, and things of that nature, right? We call that being intentionally good. And they showcased, why relationships do matter for them in their journey to being founders. So let's go and take those relationships a step deeper. Once again, my name is Joey Womack, coming to you with another episode of Why Relationships Matter in the Innovation Economy, a special edition focused on why LGBTQ founders are dope, y'all. See you later and see you next month. Peace out.